Do we have anyone signed in for public comments?
No.
Then we'll move on to board president comments. I would just like to wish everybody a healthy and happy holiday season. I know we are struggling within the library with COVID. As you all saw Mary Ellen's comments today, we now have 2 branches that we're going through remediation processes. So, it's a challenge, no doubt, Mary Ellen. I'm sure you'll update us some on that when you give us your report. But with that, then we'll move into staff reports. Mary Ellen?
Sure. It's nice to see everyone. And I hope everyone has happy holidays, and thank you for your continued support of the library. I'd like to keep my comments very brief tonight, as Mariana DiGiacomo is with us tonight, and she'll be giving you a more in-depth report on some of the services that the library is providing on outreach and how we're continuing to serve schools during the pandemic. But I will give you an update as far as branch closures this week. We have 2 staff positive cases, one at the Perry branch and one at the DeHoff branch. They are both closed right now for deep cleaning and disinfection, and our intention is to open them later this week, hopefully on Thursday and Friday of this week, and that's dependent on the cleaning being done and staffing availability. But we're hopeful that they'll be back online at the end of this week. Okay, so there are just 2 items that I want to highlight from my monthly report. Earlier, a few weeks ago, the Ohio Senate amended House Bill 404, and that allows us to meet by video conference to have our meetings. They have extended it through July 1st of 2021. And it passed both the Senate and the House, and Governor DeWine signed it on November 23rd. So we have the ability to continue to meet by Zoom through July. I also wanted to point out that Stark Library was named a 3-star library in Library Journal's December issue, and this is for the 6th year in a row. Only 31 libraries from Ohio were included on the list this year. And the survey rated 5,608 libraries nationwide. It's based on data from fiscal year 18 from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And they looked at the following categories. They looked at circulation, electronic material circulation, library visits, program attendance, Wi-Fi, and public internet computer use. And so this designation, it really recognizes the hard work of the staff, our library's performance, and our strong community support. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Mary Ellen? Mary Ellen, just one quick question with respect to the COVID-19. Our staff people who have been infected. Do we have a sense that was that from patrons that we know, or was that from their own cohorts outside of the library?
As far as we know, it was not related to any of our library facilities, and it goes back to perhaps personal interactions with family and friends outside of work.
Okay.
Sally, it looks like you're muted.
Sally, did you have a question?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, when I went out to talk to people about the levy, and I talked about the STAR award, there was not a person that had ever heard about it. And I know that our communications department works really hard, but this is such an amazing tribute to the library. I wish there was some way we could get that word out about how important it is that we were one of a very few libraries in the country that have received that honor year after year.
Yes, I agree. And I've instructed Stephanie Cargill in communications to put together a press release and also a social media campaign and an email newsletter. So her staff are working on doing that.
I think there's only one state that is higher than Ohio, and that's New York.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so it's amazing. And Ohio has 31, which is a huge number, but there are 10 states that don't have any.
Yes. Yes.
So this is not a casual award. This is something very important.
I will check in with Stephanie to see when they anticipate the press release being sent out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Those are great comments, Sally. Thank you. Anything else from Mary Ellen? If not, then we'll move to Chris, if you would give us an update on our financial affairs.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So first we'll start off. This isn't necessarily November. This is for the whole year. We received our December PLF payment as of a couple days ago. Through 2020, we are actually 1.16% or $87,000 under what we had anticipated coming into 2020. So that was pre-COVID estimates. So if you recall, in June, the state revised the estimate and significantly reduced it. We beat that target, and we are just $87,000 under the original estimate coming into 2020. So I think that shows that at least the tax dollars that go into the PLF recovered fairly well, and hopefully they stay that way going into 2021. Overall, our revenues were down. We're down between $200,000 and $300,000 for the year. That's between the PLF and then fines and fees. Most of that comes through the passport fees that we're required to charge for passports that we process. So the U.S. passport, I don't know the full name of the authority, but they have a mandated fee that we charge for every passport that we process. And we have a significant amount through there, and then copies and different things. As you know, we're any copy job under $3 we're offering for free. And just the different services that we offer, we're not charging for right now. So that's impacted us a little bit, as well as the PLF, to the tune of between $200,000 and $300,000. On the flip side, the levy came in a little bit above what we had expected. So overall, we're about $200,000 light on revenue for 2020 as compared to what we were expecting coming into the year. Again, I think all things considered, that's a pretty good. On the expense side, we made the $1 million budget cut in April to drop our expense budget for the operating fund to $15,400,000. We are currently, as of November 30th, our expenses plus encumbrance, so that's expenses plus anything we think we're going to spend, is $12,870,000. I expect with the last two payrolls here in December, and then we usually actually close out quite a bit of encumbrance, we'll probably hover between that and 13 million. So if you factor in, we're a little less than 19 million on the revenue and a little less than 13 million on the expense. We're looking at about a $6 million carryover back into our fund balance. I did not offer any fund transfer recommendations so far this year. I'd like to meet with Finance and Audit Committee in January once we have a kind of a full report on the financials, and I'll be making some recommendations to the Finance Committee, and likely, if those go through, those will come to the board in January. You'll also notice there isn't a permanent budget on the agenda this year. That's normal. We normally don't pass our permanent budget until January or February. Again, that'll go to the Finance Committee probably in January. Two other things I wanted to cover. One other thing I wanted to cover is back in, I don't remember exactly when this was, but somewhere around August or September, we brought forward to the board news of a CARES Act grant that was being given to all public libraries across the state of Ohio. Each library was to receive $25,000 per physical library branch that they had. We have 10 branches, so we received $250,000. That money has to be spent by December 31st. So we've been spending quite a bit of time figuring out how we're going to spend money, what we're going to spend it on. There's a wide range of things that we can spend it on. As at September 31st, we had already spent about $100,000 between different COVID precautions that we were taking, some of the legal fees that we incurred we had to do several contract negotiations to make it through all the different iterations of the MOUs that we had. So we were able to use about $100,000 to cover those various things. And then the remaining $150,000, we went out and tried to find additional projects that could really assist us with one, maintaining the COVID safety efforts, but then also creating a operating environment that was easier for us to operate during COVID. So it didn't necessarily have to be a safety mechanism. It could also be something that was just easing strain on the system. So some of those items were acrylic dividers, so additional acrylic dividers for all the different branches and different areas where we have staff, hands-free faucets and flush valves for the main library. We did not include the branches because those were going to be included through Reimagine. Restroom countertops, so again, that was main library only because these were all included through Reimagine. And one of the stipulations of the grant was that if we had the money already budgeted, we weren't allowed to use it for that we weren't allowed to use the grant money. So since this money was already budgeted through Reimagine, we felt we could not use the CARES Act money on the Reimagine locations. We were also installing water fountain covers for the locked out water fountains. We have purchased additional work from home technology solutions. So laptops, keyboards, monitors, docking stations, printers. That way we can have staff effectively working from home. We were kind of trying to, IT was doing their best to keep up with solutions of, borrowing a laptop from here or there and get people working from home, but we were starting to run into some efficiency issues. So the grant was really helpful there. We also purchased some virtual recording equipment for programming, so that way they can have higher quality virtual programming and do additional programming. We're working on some mobile barriers. So some of our locations have mobile barriers that it might actually just be Jackson right now, but they have mobile barriers that they could wheel around. They weren't initially intended for a COVID use, but there's something that can help create a little bit more private and potentially a safer space, a little mobile wall. And then the facilities department found a special type of disinfecting equipment that actually Lake local schools was using. That seems like it's very promising at reducing the types and different number of chemicals that we use to clean the library facilities. So that was another thing that we're purchasing. All in all, right now we have about $225,000 of the money budgeted or spent. The other $25,000 is hopefully going to be spent just on some extra things, in the rest of the year here. And then we're still working on a couple ideas, maybe some more work from home ideas or different things to help with staff. But we're really trying to spend all the money. It's supposed to go back to the state at the end of the year if we don't spend it. But we've spent a large chunk of it, and I feel like we've done a pretty good job with those dollars. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris? No, hearing none. Thank you again, Chris. Great report. Good to hear that that we only are short about 200,000 in total on our budgeted revenue. So that's good. Good. Mariana, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening and for giving me an opportunity to give an update about community services. So I think Chris has my PowerPoint. I'll share here in a minute. Okay. You can go to the next slide, Chris. All right, so I wanted to start with just a brief overview of the focus areas in community services. So some of the things that my department is responsible for are events and activities, and this includes everything from story time and book clubs to large scale events like the Speaking of Books author series, One Book, One Community, and reading challenges like the Summer Reading Challenge. We put a lot of our resources towards encouraging children to keep reading all summer long to prevent the summer slide. Literacy initiatives, oh, I'm sorry. Literacy initiatives are another big part of community services, including our Spark Kindergarten Readiness Program that we are able to provide through the wonderful partnership that we have with the ECRC. We do technology training, which includes tech classes for the public. We do technology classes, maker classes. We have a maker studio, and we also provide one-on-one help and job assistance. And then our community partnerships, I work with many organizations in the community. We collaborate on different program opportunities, share services, and ensure that the library has a seat at the table in our community. And some of the organizations that we have strong partnerships with are the ECRC, Ohio Means Jobs, the Stark Education Partnership, Starkmar, CNA, and we have a new partnership with the Children's Hunger Alliance. Through this partnership, we have been able to provide food service at our branches. We did that this summer. And then we are currently doing it through the school year at our DeHoff and Madgetts branch. Every day during the week, children are able to come in and pick up a grab and go meal that they can take with them. Our school partnerships are also very strong, and these allow us to ensure that students and educators are connected with our resources, that students have library cards, and that we're always encouraging students to make reading part of their everyday routine. One success story from our school partnerships is with Canton City Schools. We've had a long formal partnership with Canton City, and when we started our partnership with them, about 75% of their students had library cards, and now that number is close to 100% of students in the district with library cards. And mobile services is a new department to community services. I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with Susan Jacobs, and we're already brainstorming ideas for new and creative ways to offer outreach in the community through mobile services. Right, go to the next slide now, Chris. Okay, so as with everything in 2020, there have been some challenges this year that have also presented themselves as a way for us to have new opportunities to engage with our community. So we have reimagined programming. In the past, we had programs in person, and now we are holding all of the events that we used to do in person virtually using different platforms like Facebook Live. We're doing Facebook recorded programs, and we're also using Zoom for many of our programs. So now everything from story time, book clubs, and even our big author events are being held virtually. One recent success was with the Kwame Alexander event. That was scheduled as a Speaking of Books event back in March, and we had to cancel it, but we were able to offer it as a virtual event this past November. We had 150 people join us live for the event, and then we were also able to offer the recording. So we heard that many teachers shared it with their students in class afterwards. So that gave many students in our community an opportunity to hear from Kwame, and he was really a great author to have. And then another challenge that we've seen this year is the inability to provide one-on-one services, and that has especially impacted our Spark Kindergarten Readiness Program. In the past, we did home visits where our parent partners would provide the program through monthly visits to the Spark families. And we are still doing that, only we're doing it now virtually. We had started implementing in-person social distance visits at 2 of our locations, but when we went to Purple, we pulled that back. So now our parent partners are meeting with the families virtually, and we're happy that we can keep that program going and continue the Kindergarten Readiness Program, which really is a great way to prepare kids for kindergarten and have an impact on the future of Stark County. And the last challenge is providing meaningful outreach to schools and meeting student and educator needs, and also the needs of families. So in this current environment, we have really had to rethink how we serve the schools. In the past, we had really robust offerings with our librarians and specialists providing in-person programming at the schools, and especially for after-school programming. And given that the schools are facing many challenges as well this year, we really wanted to learn from them how we could best offer services and resources that would impact them and provide meaningful opportunities to engage with their students. So in order to help us do that, we sent out a survey. Chris, you can go to the next slide here. And what we did is at the beginning of the school year, we invited educators to take a survey to provide input to help us shape the services that we would offer to meet the needs of the schools. So I wanted to go through a little bit about what we learned from that survey and how we are providing services to meet the needs of the schools. So you can jump to the next slide, Chris. Okay, so we were really happy that when we issued the survey, and we issued it through the Stark County Educational Service Center, provided emails for all of the curriculum directors, all of our branches who had contacts with the schools. We have many contacts with people that we work with regularly, and also our educator library card list. So we were able to send this out to many educators in the county. And we were happy that we received results from every school district that we serve. You can see on the chart there that Canton City, Plain Local, and Sandy Valley were the three where we received the most responses. That is really not surprising. We have really strong relationships with those schools, and we did a lot with them when we were in person. So we did get a good response from them. And then for some of those districts where we didn't get a lot of responses, we reached back out to them and reissued the survey. So we're hoping that maybe even some more responses trickle in from them. All right, you can go to the next slide now, Chris. Okay, so some of the things that we learned from the survey, one bit of information that we wanted to gather was how what type of learning method the schools were using in the COVID environment. And the slide on the left there shows that at the time that we issued the survey, which was the very beginning of October, most of the respondents were doing in-school learning only. And we know that some of that has changed now that we've gone to purple, and some of the schools have gone to virtual learning. But at the time, there was a high percentage of districts that were in person only. And then there were also some schools, the second from the left there shows the hybrid learning. So 61 respondents said that their schools were offering we're offering school where the students were going part of the week in person and part of the week virtually. Some schools were offering this as a choice where the parents could decide whether they wanted to send their kids in person or do all virtual. And then actually at the time of the survey, the virtual learning only was the smallest percentage. But you can see that there was just a mix everywhere. So we knew that in order to provide outreach to the schools that we had to do it in a virtual way so that we could reach many of the students. And then another big area of interest was whether or not schools were providing Wi-Fi access or hotspots to the students. And we know that this is a challenge in many of our communities where families were unable to, families who didn't have Wi-Fi access were unable to do the virtual school. So it was really a big need, and we wanted to see what that looked like for our districts to see what our response could be. So we learned that 145 of the respondents, their districts were providing either Wi-Fi hotspots or Wi-Fi access. So this was a large number, but some of the respondents weren't sure, and 53 of the respondents were not providing Wi-Fi access. I know that many of the districts had received CARES Act funding in order to provide Wi-Fi access, but there were still some districts where Wi-Fi access is a challenge. You can go to the next slide now, Chris. Okay, and then these two slides, the slide on the right, Greg Burlingame and I were really interested in finding out what kind of databases the students or the teachers felt that their students could benefit from. So as we are looking to add additional databases, this slide here, the information that we gathered from it will help us to explore ones that the schools would find helpful. And the one that got the greatest response was Scholastic To Go. And then the Homework Help and Tutor.com also received, those two combined also received many responses. So that's telling us that possibly databases that can provide homework help are of interest. And then the slide over there on the left, which was the interest in services for classrooms. This question really helped us gather the information that we needed to form our response and create an outreach plan to meet the needs of the schools. So we had offered through the survey some suggestions for things that we could offer, including online library cards, classroom visits, virtual story time, educator kits, deposit collections, book talks. And as you can see from the slide there, there was an interest in pretty much everything that we that we could offer. So this has helped us formulate a plan for how we move forward. You can go to the next slide, Chris. Okay, so our responses to this so far have been with two of our school districts, Canton City and Sandy Valley, we are a 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. So those two schools have received the 21st Century Grant Funds. And as a partner in that grant, we are providing, well, when we were in person, we were providing in-person outreach through the after-school programming. So now that we're virtual, our Sandy Valley librarians and specialists at that branch have been doing virtual after-school programming with the students at the Sandy Valley schools. And with Canton City, they have gone to, through their after-school programming, we are going to be providing after-school virtual programming. We are also offering our Winter Reading Challenge, which is going to be starting in January, and the after-school group is going to be participating in that. And we are working with them as we are continuing to provide virtual programming. So another thing that we've done that was as a result of the survey was many of the schools were interested in deposit collections, educator units, and lit kits. So we have been filling those requests from teachers. And the Canton City School District, one of the challenges that they were having this school year was they wanted to really connect their students with books, but they didn't want to give out books where the kids had to bring them back and forth. And they also were really trying to get the kids to use our digital collection, but they were having problems with some of the kids bringing their cards in. So as a response to this, we provided deposit collections for all of their elementary schools that the schools can keep there throughout the school year, and they're free to give those books to the students, and then the students can take those books home and they can use them. So this is a way to put books in the hands of kids who are having trouble getting access to books right now during this environment. And then for Wi-Fi hotspots, we've been working with the Stark Education Partnership, and Teresa Persis at SEP has been working with the schools, and she's identified some families that needed Wi-Fi hotspots. And as she was identifying families, we were connected with them to provide hotspots. So we've been able to put Wi-Fi hotspots into the hands of families so that they can do virtual learning. And our virtual outreach, Chris, if you can go to the next slide. So as we move into, from the responses of the schools, we did learn that the schools are very interested in having story time for their classes. They're interested in classroom and after school visits. They are interested in book talks and book lists for their students, and also reading challenges. So as a result of the survey, what we are now doing is creating staff groups that are going to be working on creating story times and after school programs and book talks. And then we're going to do this as a combination of both virtual in-person outreach, and we're also going to be recording so that we can provide links to YouTube videos that our librarians are recording that we can share, and then the teachers or after school specialists can share these programs with their students. So we've really just kind of taken the information that we received from that survey and come up with a plan so that we can provide what the schools are looking for, and a plan that can benefit both the students, the families, and the teachers. Okay, go to the next slide, Chris. All right, and then I just wanted to say a little bit about outreach and the mobile services department. Some of the things that we've been doing is really strengthening our books by mail service so that we can reach the homebound. And we have been increasing the patrons that are using this service each month. So that's really good, and we're very happy about that. And also our community stops are getting busier, so our visits have been increasing there. In the new year, we're looking at building a more versatile fleet. We're also looking at new organizations where we can provide deposit collections. So in this time where people aren't maybe visiting or able to get out, we want to provide some deposit collections so that people have access to books. And then we're also looking at some special projects with nursing homes and senior centers, and where we are going to be connecting students from our schools with residents in nursing homes or senior centers, where we're doing projects where students are going to be doing some greeting cards and sharing them with residents in nursing homes. And that's going to be happening in February, when we're also going to be doing many kindness activities around our One Book, One Community selection. Okay, and then the next slide, Chris. So finally, as we look forward to 2021, we have some big things that are coming up. We are moving forward with a One Book, One Community. We are going to be holding this in February, and the book is I'm Proud of You by Tim Madigan, and it's a book about the author's relationship with Mr. Rogers. So we're going to have all kinds of kindness themed programming. The author is going to be joining us for a virtual event. We are also going to have the author do an event for the schools. So he's going to be doing 2 events for us, and we're going to have all kinds of activities around that one book. We're also looking at building out business services on our mobile trucks and increasing book clubs and virtual programming. Reading challenges have been a great way for us to connect with families and encourage people of all ages to read during the pandemic. So we're going to continue with that. In January, we're doing a Books Like Us reading challenge through Beanstack. And that challenge, in addition to reading, there are going to be activities around exploring authors from diverse backgrounds. We're looking at doing a poetry contest in April. We used to do that in person with an in-person event, and we're going to move that to virtual. And we're going to continue to find ways to engage the community through our virtual events. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Mariana?
Not necessarily a question, Mariana, sorry. But more of a kind of a follow-up. What you're doing is extremely impressive, and I love the fact that you surveyed the staff. You know, I've said this numerous times. My number one concern is for Canton City. I think that those kids are already behind, and that now all of this can make them even further behind. I don't know if there's an opportunity for you and probably Mary Ellen to have a conversation with Jeff and see what's missing. Is there something that the library can help fill a gap? There's a lot of amazing opportunities here, and I'm not sure that maybe he or his administration knows everything that you're offering, and perhaps having a conversation about what's missing and what could we possibly do to support specifically Canton City, just because those kids are so far behind.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I will say that that is one of the school districts that I feel that we're doing maybe a little more than we're doing with others. We've had a long-standing relationship with them. And yeah, you know, some of the challenges with the library cards were with Canton City. So we're really, you know, trying to address those and break down those barriers. But yes, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
It absolutely is. And I see these kids outside my window oftentimes and think, you know, they don't have any type of normalcy now. Even what was normal is now interrupted even more. So I just, anything that we can do to reach out to them, I would encourage us to do that.
Thank you.
I agree with Joe, but I definitely commend you for your outreach services to the community, and that survey was great because it gives you an opportunity to ask them what it is you need from us. But again, you can just dig a little deeper and really connect with Canton City schools and just see. And also with the hotspots, is it through the school? Like if a parent is in need of that in Canton City, do they contact the library, or is it only through the school?
Yes, they can contact us. We've been working with Teresa over at the Education Partnership. She's been finding out about the families that are in need, but a family can also call us. I believe that Canton City did receive the CARES Act fund so that they could provide the Wi-Fi access for their students. So I think a lot of the Wi-Fi hotspots that we've been giving out, most of them have been through Plain schools, but you know, anyone that has a need, Sandy Valley I know has had some needs as well, and Canton Local. So
I guarantee you Canton City needs it. I know that for a fact, and maybe maybe they're not aware, but I know they need it, you know.
Okay.
Well, any other questions?
I'm sorry, Steve, and I agree with Robert. I don't think they always work with Education Partnership.
Okay.
Canton City seems to sometimes be an island among itself because they're so big and so many major issues. But I just, like I said, I'm really worried about those kids, and I think you're right. They probably did get some, but I think if you go to Jeff and talk to him directly, it might give you some really strong insight.
Okay.
It's a great point. So Mariana, that was an excellent report. It was great to hear how you and your team have, you know, really addressed, you know, the conditions we're dealing in. But anything we can do, I I'm not as familiar with what the conditions are in Canton as Joe and Robin may be, but I believe exactly that we need to do whatever we can do to help them.
And one last thing, I just want to make sure you understand, we're not criticizing you or anything like that. We really appreciate everything, Mary Ellen, and what you guys are doing and trying to make an effort and meet some of these challenges that we have. So you guys are a wonderful resource, and we really, really do appreciate what you're doing. So I just want to make sure you understand that, and we weren't being critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you're from birth basically on up, and that's not an easy span to get services. So
Yeah.
I applaud you. My whole thing is just strengthen that, because I know it's absolutely yours as well, is to make sure that literacy is the front and center. And again, anything that we can do to support you, that's what we're here to do, and offer you some possible. And if it's needing to open doors, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to help in any way I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank
We'll
you.
move next on the agenda to the consent calendar. I'd ask the board members to, I'd ask for a motion to accept the items contained within the consent calendar.
So move.
We have a second.
Second,
We have
Joe.
a motion and second. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Thank you. The motion carries. Next on the agenda is Building and Grounds Committee report. Do we have anything to report this afternoon?
I have no report.
There's no report.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, hopefully you saw the revised agenda that came out today. We have a resolution for the 2021 State of Ohio minimum wage, which was increased from $8.70 to $8.80 an hour. I don't think we need a lot of discussion on this. May I have a motion to approve?
You'll move, Joe.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Chris, we have a number of items under the Audit and Finance Committee report. Do you want to take over?
Sure. The first one's on page 15 of the board packet. It's a referendum on the table of charges fees. So this is a extension of the referendum that we've had in place, I believe, since July. Mary Ellen, is that correct? Has it been since July? We've kind of done 3 months at a time, where any copy and print jobs under $3, we are essentially offering for, we're waiving the fees. And then anything over $3, we're requiring a online payment by credit or debit card. And again, this is just for 3 months through March 31st of 2021.
Any questions about the temporary referendum?
So moved, Joe.
You have a second?
Second, Sally.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. Hearing none, passes. Chris,
Okay.
next.
Sure. The next one is a resolution for advancement of funds for 2021 to Stark County. Each year we ask the Stark County Auditor to advance our levy funds. This is again just authorizing me to write them a letter and ask them to advance them once again.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Robin, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same.
Okay. The next one is the establishment of a Star Ohio account for the Positive Reimagine funds. We currently have 2 Star Ohio accounts. One is just a general account where we keep capital funds. Another one is where we kept the Jackson funds. And this would be a third one for keeping the Reimagine funds that we received last week. There's no cost for this account. It's an interest-bearing account. It's just a simple way to separate the funds out. It's very easy to transfer the funds back and forth to our normal checking account. And it's sponsored by the state of Ohio. Again, I just need approval to be able to open a third account.
Okay, so this will be a roll call vote. So do I have a motion to approve?
Bob moves.
Do we have a second?
Joe.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Joe,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Edmund,
Yes.
and Susan did not join us yet. Okay, and Steve, yes. Motion carries. Chris?
And the next one is the establishment of a debt service fund for the Reimagine project. So again, we have a debt service fund for Jackson. This is a debt service fund for Reimagine. What we would do is we are required by law to take a portion of our PLF payment each month to pay for the Reimagine project debt service. And so this is just where we would, instead of going to the general fund, part of it would go to the Reimagine project, and then another part would go into this fund.
Yeah. Again, this is a roll call vote. Do I have a motion to approve?
Bob moves.
Second?
Sally, yes.
Okay, motion and second. Joe?
Sorry. Yes. Sorry, coming off you mute.
Bob?
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Edmund?
Yes.
And Steve, yes. Thank you.
Okay. The next one here is transfers and appropriations to the 2020 budget. I'm not going to go through each line, but essentially the first part is moving funds between each of these individual funds. So they're the first three are for the general fund, the next two are for the foundation fund, and the last three are for the Jackson fund. It's just moving between different categories just to cover. Actually, in the general fund, we're not over anywhere, but it's just to cover us in case the encumbrances don't even out. There's really nothing that I would consider of great note in that first part. Obviously, if there's any questions, please let me know. The second section is actually making additional appropriations to the 2020 budget. So we issued the debt for the Reimagine project, and that is going into Fund 455, the Capital Campaign Fund. But we don't have a budget appropriated for that for this year, and we need to sign the contract with Oliveri Construction. So this is allowing us to cover that. Plus, we had a couple of expenses in the supplies category. So it's just the board creating the budget for that fund.
Okay. Are there any questions on this before I ask for a motion? Okay, hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve?
Bob
So
moves.
move.
We have a motion in this. I'm going to take Sally as a second.
Yes.
So roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Edmund?
Yes.
And Steve, yes. The resolution carries. Thank you. Any
Okay.
matters under new business?
Steve, we actually have one more resolution. We have the temporary budget resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris, I'm sorry.
So the final resolution is on page 20 of your packet. It's the 2021 budget resolution or temporary budget resolution. This is, as I said earlier, it's a temporary budget for 2021. So we are allowed to pass a budget to carry us from January 1 through March 31st. This is essentially, so the general fund is essentially 1/4 of the 2020 budget that we had. I did make some increases for library materials and information, and then also for capital outlay, just to make some room for some early in the year expenses. But this will cover us through March, and I anticipate that we'll have a full budget for that past prior to March. The next, really the only other funds that are really on here are the capital projects fund. So that's we have some renovation projects for the main library that were postponed last year due to COVID that we would still like to continue. And then we also have some interest in looking at some of our buses for mobile services and possibly purchasing a new vehicle in there, not a bus, but more of a van. So that allows us some flexibility in there to work on that. And then the capital campaign fund, again, that's the Reimagine fund. We just appropriated $3 million to sign the Oliveri contract, so this will cover some various expenses in the first quarter of next year. Then we have the Jackson fund that's just filling out a few end pieces to the Jackson project that is basically finished, but we had a couple things slightly delayed due to COVID. That project, or that fund, is actually still a little under budget, so we're in good shape on that project. And then the last fund that there's any money allocated for the temporary budget would be the Imagination Library Fund. And again, that's just that's money sitting in there. We are spending approximately $5,500 a month on the program. Some of that is Alliance Library, but the vast majority of it is ours. So altogether, we have just under $6 million budgeted between all the funds. Our revenue will actually likely exceed that through that same quarter.
And just to mention that Chris did run this by the finance committee, somewhat informally, but we had a chance to look at this. Any questions for Chris before I ask for a motion to approve? All right, may I have a motion?
Joe,
So moved.
second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Edmund,
Yes.
and Steve, yes. All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to new business. Is there any items under the new business? No. Hearing none. We have some matters related to real estate. We need to go into executive session. I would ask for a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. It's a roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Edmund,
Yes.
and Steve, yes. We are now in executive